energy boost
That's
that they may or
fascinating to
may
think
not
about.
know about.
That is so fascinating to think about as far as consciousness, right? My mind's been kind of following and almost creating its own story and wondering, oh my God, like, the consciousness itself is going to be informed by whatever information that we allow it to consume. But if it's artificial intelligence and it can build upon its own consciousness and reason out what things actually mean, I hadn't actually considered the implications of a spiritual influence over AI. That's fascinating. And is
I
that
heard
something that you gravitated to?
it's just something that I've been led to. I don't know how, but I've been led. So I heard Peter say, "Oh, he was the only one that had that was there to represent an upliftment of consciousness, but he didn't go to the meeting."
Was that the one that it was going to be on Richard Branson's like private island, and then
It
Richard
was,
Branson
and the
found out
person
that
that
he was a felon and because of Pentonville whole BS, and so he didn't get
I
invited.
don't know, it was a paperwork thing, but I thought that was the end of that sort of aspect as to why, because I wrote it on my vision board and I didn't know why.
Hmm.
So very intriguingly, when I went to Tenerife, I met the person who went to the symposium, the
Hmm.
AI symposium, and had this idea. And I thought, oh, I'm going to do an artwork for it. I'm going to do an artwork to put my intention into the artwork of beauty, of raising consciousness and raising frequency towards that aspect.
Hmm.
You know, the I don't know if the word policing is, I talk maybe of the universal balance of it, because there's light and dark in every aspect of everything. So last year, June, the
Hmm.
next iteration of my AI thoughts, and I have no much idea about the AI world. Then on the weekend, I met my daughter and she said to me that she had created this app, and hey mom, AI is so cool. She taught herself how to make this app and she showed me an app, and I was like, wow, that baby, that's amazing. That's amazing. Like this, the AI taught you how to do this. So you ask this app a question and they guide you and they lead you. And I thought, oh, that is really great, because AI can be used to for education, medical use. It could be used for, growing food, predicting things, harnessing
Physics,
thoughts,
chemistry, right? We can create our
anything.
own artificial environments and have it just actually run through the different sequences, and then we can actually examine it, yeah.
Amazingness, right? And so it started to give me a tinge about, what could happen with AI for me and everyday person.
Yeah.
And so that was the next iteration of the AI. The other intriguing thing is, on last week, I met my cousin who I hadn't spoken to, honestly, I would possibly think, possibly for maybe nearly 40 years. And she lives in Ireland. And she reached out to me and she said to me she would love to do a healing hypnosis with me where I access my higher self, and that yeah, I have some. Everybody's got their story, and
Yeah.
I had some questions about, like, how to move forward with certain things.
Hmm.
And in this healing meditation, this is so intriguing. Came this message. One of my questions is for me is that I have totally changed since I did the spiritual awakening and the EMF course. I was like the warrior girl businesswoman,
Mm.
and I was kind of torching forth.
Hmm.
And the reason why I did that is that I always wanted to make money to help my family and to help others. And I have a want in my heart that I take my earthly dollars and I translate it into eternal love energy.
Mm.
So I had this blockage about money. I was always like, oh, to me when I was very little, um, money equaled pain to me, because what happened was that you know, my dad left us very wealthy, and then a stepfather came along, and there was a lot of money involved, and that was like an opening for him to abuse me and my family. But anyway, so I have had a lot of trauma from a very young age, and say from the age of say 3 or 5, I have in my heart always thought that I'm going to look for answers as to why is there so much suffering and how to alleviate the suffering. So part of this meditation that came through is that I've been sent here to help others, and the suffering that I have seen through I have seen untold suffering in my life, physical, mental, every kind of suffering. I was like, in one lifetime, why have I been chosen to see so much suffering? And the answer I got through the meditation is that I've been sent here through a collective of energy that was unexpressed love. So there's a collective that had innate love, that could not express that love through their spiritual energy. They needed a physicalness, a physicality to express that love. So I've been sent here to help others and to express that love, to help others through a physicality, because this innate spiritual collective, they had never really understood emotion.
Well, how could it? If it's a oneness, if it's out of oneness, well, you know, emotion is going to bring you out of oneness, right? That's why if you ever do heart math, right? I've got a little heart math sensor. I think unless you're feeling gratitude, whatever emotion you are is going to bring you out of coherence, whatever emotion you're feeling. And so if you're in a state of oneness, there's no way to know that. And what I like about what you're saying too, as far as teaching people just by being here, I used to watch a lot of Sadhguru. I'll still tune in and watch some things here and there.
I love him.
Yeah. Well, he talks about how you know, when I first started watching him, he's like, look, if you want to be happy, just be happy. It's like, oh yeah, easy for an Indian mystic to say, yeah, I can just be happy. Okay, well, what about my past, right? What about my own trauma? What about, you know, my experiences with an abusive step parent? You know, what about, you know, the things that I've seen at war? You know, what about just the times that life has really terrifically sucked at times? And then I started thinking about, you know, well, so far up to this point, I haven't been able to refute anything that he said. So what if I just took him at his word, and that there is a path for me to just be happy? And as I started playing with that, I think within about 2 months of playing with that is when Peter Sage came into my life. Never heard of the man. When I first started, and when I first looked at his webinar, there was something about him. Like I had this feeling almost like I had traveled back in time in order to be like, dude, keep going. Right? Because even though in 10 years time or however long, he's going to be wherever he is now plus 10 years, I can get to where he is in that time, or, you know, whatever time frame that is. Like, I felt like I came from the past and look, dude, you can be this if you keep going. It's like, and it fascinated me. And, you know, it's interesting because everything that you've been talking about with your whiteboard is you're talking about the manifestation. You're manifesting these things around AI, and it seems like it's bringing a lot of love into your life, even though there's a lot of suffering as well, in order for you to translate that. And I found that probably my biggest area of manifestation outside of, you know, going through the Elite Mentorship Forum with Peter Sage, or without, you know, the Healing Genius with Ed Stracher, I was listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson, and he talked about how probably the best thing we can do for ourselves is create our highest ideal of goodness, of which we can conceive, and then go get it, go obtain it, right? Be worthy of it by obtaining it. And I thought about that. I was like, okay, well, that makes sense, because people typically just say, well, God, right? God is my highest conception of good, but they rarely take the time to actually dictate out and spell out, hey, what is God to me? Like, what is that? What is that Christ-like nature? Or, you know, if you've got a different God, like what is that? And so since I'm a fantasy nerd, and I use fantasy to escape a lot and to find my own answers, just to try to survive the trauma, I then built it around Gandalf. and just somebody who's just there to share love, who's there to basically be somebody that when you're around them, you just feel better by being in their presence, because they're just an all around good person. They're just fascinating. They're there to help. Ultimately they're there to help, and the help is welcome. And that would have been in October of 2021. And by November of 2022, so just barely over a year later, I was graduating EMF and I was graduating Healing Genius. And fascinating that my highest ideal of goodness is a wizard who's there to just share love and help. And everything Peter talks about is just adding value wherever you go, adding value. And then Ed Stracher taught me how to be a wizard, basically, and actually heal people. And like, oh my God, like the ability to manifest is incredible, but rare is the person that takes a step back and acknowledges it, because we're usually so caught up in what we're seeing that we don't actually realize that as long as we dictate from here, things are good. Like inside, right? Inside, and understand that what's out there doesn't drive this, but what's in this drives that, and what's out there. We'll find that life is much better. And I'm curious, you're going through a lot of struggles right now in New Zealand, right? New Zealand, lockdowns are probably some of the most draconian that in the world. You've now got flooding. You said that there were cyclones, but you said that you get the distinct feeling. We were talking a little bit offline, but you got the distinct feeling that you need to keep your vibrations high. Have you ever had that feeling before in your life and seen what's come of it?
So this is quite interesting. When I was very little and I'd go through the trauma, I would it was a coping mechanism for me. Mm-hmm. I would look down at myself as though I was taking a bird's eye view, and I would look at myself looking at the event from a bird's eye view, helicopter point of view. And I used to tell myself, it's okay, because there's two parts of me. That's the part that's going through the situation, but there's another part of me that's stronger than the situation, that can deal with this in a calm way. And I believe now, when even at the age of 5, or whenever I was going through the trauma and, for years, that was my higher self I was accessing, but I didn't understand it at the time.
Yeah.
So I knew that as much as I was going through, there was a part of me that knew that was more like eternal, that was more powerful, because I even forgot what your question was, the last question you asked me.
Oh, just you have a distinct feeling that you should keep your vibrations high.
Yes.
Regardless of what's going on. And I'm curious, have you ever had that distinct feeling in the past, and have you seen what's kind of come from fruition from that?
Yeah, so basically, it's a little bit of a long story, but when I was very little, I had these. So when I was 5, the trauma started, and it went on for many years. But I did have this access to myself where it was happening, and then I would step back and look at the situation and go, look, there are two Cindys. There's the one who's going through the trauma, but there's the other constant Cindy that is a strong girl. Even though I was really little. And I came to a very big realization that my stepfather, I don't think that he meant to abuse me. I just think he was living out what he owned, the only path that he knew. So I don't think anyone consciously chooses a path. He just landed in that path, possibly because that was the culture, or that was how his family did things. That was what he saw. That was what he went through. So, and it came out as abuse. My words, right? My words.
Yeah.
But when I think about this, and I had that split, my higher self looking at the situation, I see that he was in such pain. That he was just acting out his pain, like that was his daily life.
Yeah.
But when he saw me being a little 5-year-old, he tried to touch God, because I don't think he was trying to abuse me. I think he was trying to touch God. He saw an angel, a little angel who he saw was perfect.
Perfect innocence, something that he hasn't known for a long, long time.
He tried to touch God, and in whatever way he enacted was his attempt to touch God. And so what happened to me for many years, I got caught in my darkness, because I used to think, how can the one who's supposed to be, you know, caring for me, who's supposed to be protecting me, be the one that hurts me? If he's an adult and I'm 5 years old, that is not a protector.
Right.
But then I thought to myself, you know, if he is in so much pain, and that was his only little respite, and I had been looking for my life's purpose for many years, and it's kind of verbalized to me last year. And the purpose of my life is to transform lives with grace and ease. Then I came to the realization that I have been doing this since the age of 5. If for one little moment of respite, I was transforming his life through relief from the pain, I was already doing my work at the age of 5. That which I had been seeking for 50 years,
you already were.
has always been. That which I'm seeking, I already am. So
how long did it take you to figure that out in life? From 5, like without, I don't know, like maybe that's a faux pas, because I basically just mathematically asked how old you are, but,
that's okay.
Yeah.
So this year, in a couple of months, I'll be 58.
Okay. Wow. Well, you are a beautiful 58. And so 53 years, you've been this for 53 years, and it basically took what, 52 years until you realized?
To realize it. And what happened is that what gave me my freedom and my release from fear and pain is that I blamed him. I judged him. I was like, how can the protector hurt the little girl?
Yeah.
But what gave me my freedom is when I realized that what ties me to him, if I have that within myself, the blaming, the judgment, the fear, the hurt, I am tied to him in darkness and not in light. That is what ties me to him. And the minute that I realize that I give away the darkness and I forgive him and I give over to love and I'm linked to him in love, I give him freedom if he accepts that forgiveness. So the minute I got linked to him in love is when I got my freedom.
So it almost sounds like, you know, when you sever that connection with love, as it recoils back upon him, you're giving a little bit of that divinity, right? Because that love is now kind of on the end of that tentacle, so to speak. And so it could even touch him, and perhaps, you know, wherever he is, whatever stage he's in. And by doing that, you could have actually given him the gift that he was looking for this whole time.